going on, Jerome's NFL Combine is upon us, and head coach Kevin O'Connell and GM adofo-mensah fed the media jackals today, and Kevin O'Connell is looking good, by the way. He looks like every single Minnesota dad at like a hockey tournament, just wearing like the puffy vest. Just looking good. Just looking good, man. No, there needs to be some form of Minnesota sports hat, probably a Wild hat. Or Twins hat, I don't know. But Kevin O'Connell, basically these combine pressers, nothing really controversial ever gets said other than Spielman, we have no intention of trading Percy Harvin at this time. Stuff like that. But Kevin O'Connell, the main question was about Kirk Cousins, and will Rag at Sports Illustrated go? Kevin O'Connell, Kirk Cousins knows how I feel about him. He knows how the Minnesota Vikings feel about him. I believe Kirk wants to be a Viking, and we're going to work to make the outcome. So basically, just saying all the right things. And things are up in the air, and Kwesi's at the dish right now, talking about trading Justin Jefferson, which ain't going to happen, as well as resigning Kirk. But basically, so this is what sucks, where it's all the national media, right? So they're seeing things from 30,000 feet, and you don't get as drilled down on the questions as you would like if it was just strictly the local beat writers who, they know the team, they know the questions that the fans want to know. So I may have missed it. I don't think I did. I listened to it the first time through, and again, maybe I missed it, but there wasn't a single question about Justin Jefferson. Odd. That's crazy, man. But we're going to go through here. So a couple of New England memories. Talk about Gerard Mayo. Talk about Belichick. Talk about Matthew Slater. He thinks he's going to be a future head coach. And he remembers his time with the Patriots fondly, where he was drafted there. And also he talked about how that's how he got familiar with Flores. Flores was an assistant on the defensive side of the ball, looking to trick the third-string quarterback every single day in practice. It's good, man. But, O'Connell, every time he talks, especially in situations like this, press conferences where it's not after a horrifically bad loss like against the Bears or the Broncos, but you're reminded why you fell in love with him in the first place. You're reminded why the Vikings chose O'Connell, because I do feel like he is a sponge. I do feel like he is a work in progress, and he admits that fully. And I think that he just really gives respect to where he's come from and where he and the team are going to go. And you can see why it's very easy, why players want to play for him. But obviously, working out the kinks and learning to be a head coach, learning to be a play caller on the fly. Things weren't perfect last year. Injuries had a big part to do with it, but game management does need to get better. Play calling situationally does need to get better, and I think he's going to put in the work. So I still have faith in Kevin O'Connell, man. Also, asked about Kirk Cousins' rehab. Basically, Kirk. So a lot of Kirk's social media is him working in Holland, at home in Holland, Michigan, but he did say that he's working in-house as well here in the great state of Minnesota. So I think that's a sign that Kirk is at TCO Performance Center Bar and Grill doing some of his off-season rehab. And then again, the national media questions where it's like, how do you keep in contact with future coaches, the guys that you might hire or guys that you might work for? Blah. Also, again, instead of asking about Justin Jefferson and his contract or potentially being traded, hey, let's ask him what he thinks about Shane Steichen of the Colts. Great. But also, he was asked about draft prospects, and it is along the lines of how the Vikings have operated, where maybe it isn't just black and white statistical production, but you're betting on traits. It's like how the Vikings drafted Danielle Hunter, even though he only had 4.5 sacks at LSU. But the profile of what the player can provide. And also, it was really interesting. O'Connell talked about how players learn. So they actually get into the nuts and bolts of how players learn, what is the best way to teach them, what is the best way to work them into the system. And I think that's really smart. And we said this a bunch where, good coaches adjust their scheme to their players, both personality, both the way that they learn, both the skill set that they bring, focus on what a player can do versus what they can't, versus bad coaches make the players fit into their scheme. We're seeing that, man. Also, asked about the running back room. He still has a lot of faith in Alexander Madison. He's actually pretty hyped about Ty Chandler. He's glad that Ty Chandler was grabbing some opportunity towards the end of last season. I think that there's a good chance that Chandler could emerge as running back one for next year. And then he was asked about college quarterbacks to the pros, and the systems and schemes make it hard. But he talked about how specific traits, especially on third down. Can you make this throw? What are you looking for? Can you break down this coverage? And he's right when he talks about colleges don't owe the NFL anything in terms of running a specific offense to get players ready for the NFL. Now, in a way, like some players will obviously like that, especially quarterbacks, where if you run a pro-style system, you can really easily translate that into NFL success, and that could help your draft stock. But you look at Hendon Hooker last year out of Tennessee, you look at Bo Nix this year in Oregon, and a lot of quarterbacks do come from the college-style offenses, where whether it's air raid back in the day or whether it's the RPO, the quick screens and bubbles and slants and all that stuff. And some of that does translate to the league, sure, but a lot of it does not. And I think a lot of people are fooled and swayed by big-time box score numbers, but it's kind of like with Brock Purdy. You have to look at the ADOT. You have to look at the situation. You have to look at a lot of things. And plus, that trickles down too, because then you have to look at. So a big thing for a long while was air raid tackles. Like they had very low pressure numbers, very low sack numbers, but that's because the ball was getting out quick and the ball was getting out vertically. And the whole thing about it is like one hand washes the other. Where you look at like JPJ, like Jackson Powers Johnson, where I don't think he gave up a sack. He may have had like 4 pressures this year, and that's not because he's a great center. He is. Don't get me wrong, but a big part of that is the Bo Nix is just getting the ball out quick because it's a bubble screen every single play, or a tunnel screen, or whatever. But what he looks for in a quarterback, so it's the same song and dance that he's talked about before: accuracy, processing, smart, tough, accountable, leadership traits. So there's a couple of guys you can just cross off there. I don't know, but it is pretty straightforward. But it always comes down to, for me, Kevin O'Connell talking about accuracy. Can you deliver an accurate ball in rhythm, on time, under duress, or whatever? And I think that's the number one thing. So the whole, mama, I can change him, strong arm quarterback who isn't really accurate. Maybe that's why the Vikings didn't go with Will Levis last year when they could have at 23 overall. And then, of course, Shane Steichen. Cool. But Kwesi looks like he had a lot more to say. But it's good to hear from Kevin O'Connell. It's been a hot second, and things are really starting to heat up. And with all the decision makers in Indianapolis, we're going to get some clarity soon. He wasn't even asked about Danielle Hunter. Yeah, because why the hell would you ask him that? Because we got to know his thoughts about Shane Steichen. But things are going to get moving, because even though legal tampering doesn't start until March 11th, baloney, it starts right now. So hopefully the Vikings get some things done, we get some clarity, and then we'll have a strategy headed into the draft. But your thoughts are thoughts. Take a look at Kevin O'Connell's press conference at the NFL Combine. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.